For those of you that do not know, I am a recovering college professor. The wounds have healed, but the scars remain. Anyway, you can't teach for any length of time without coming to terms with the fact that your students are going to form opinions about your teaching, and you're going to find out about those opinions, one way or the other. One way or the fucking other. So there's this website called ratemyprofessors.com. For the few of you that may not be familiar with it, it is exactly what it sounds like. It's a place where college students can go and give their professors a rating from 1 to 5 stars, and also leave comments about their professor's teaching which are totally unfair and inaccurate. When I was teaching, I used to go to this site all the time, not just to look at my own ratings, but to see what people were saying about other professors. Like if I read a news article about somebody who was a professor, even if the article wasn't really about their professoring, I would go check them out on Rate My Professors. I just found it interesting. So what I would like to do now is tell you the story of the greatest Rate My Professors comment of all time. But not only that, this is the greatest Rate My Professors comment which is even possible. There will never be a better one, and there will never be another one as good. And I just want to give a shout out to the anonymous genius that put this comment in. Back in the day, and this is all true, you can look it up, there was a math professor at Michigan State who had a meltdown in the middle of class. He started screaming at his students that life had no meaning and there was no God. If I had been one of his students, I would have been like, go on. Maybe use your inside voice, but I'm listening. Probably a really nice break from all the math, right? But then he kicked it up a notch. He took off all his clothes, except for his socks. Which is how you know he's not totally crazy. I never had a meltdown in class, but I would have definitely kept my socks on. I probably would have kept my shoes on, too. It seems like a situation where you might want to have some traction. Speaking of which, he then goes out into the hallway and starts running up and down the hall screaming. So his students are looking at each other like, class dismissed, I guess? But then he comes back in the classroom and starts yelling at them again. I haven't forgotten about you! You're the reason I know there's no God! Eventually, the police arrived. And I use the word eventually because there were some complaints about the police response time. Because of course there were. College students are so fucking demanding. Oh, my professor's naked. Somebody rescue me from the naked professor. Solve that homicide some other time. This is important. So the police take the guy not to jail, but to some sort of mental health facility, which is obviously the correct decision. Way to go, cops. You got one right. So sometime after this happened, I found out about the incident, and I immediately thought to myself, I got to check this guy out on Rate My Professors. What I found were a bunch of comments that were put in before he had his meltdown. I'm guessing that once it happened and it became a news story, they probably locked down his account pretty quickly. So I'm looking at the comments, and I will say that overall they were negative, but they were negative in sort of an ordinary garden variety anti-professor type way, like, you know, tests are too hard, takes too long to grade my work, that kind of thing. Nobody was like, you know, I'm worried that he might take off all his clothes and tell me there's no God. Nobody saw that coming. And I will say, in fairness to the naked screaming professor, some of the comments were positive. Some of his students did like him. But then I came to the final comment. And I just want to say one more time, this is not only the greatest Rate My Professors comment of all time, it is the greatest Rate My Professors comment which is even possible. There will never be a better one. There will never be another one as good. And I just want to give a shout out to the anonymous genius that put this comment in. As I'm looking at the comment, I've got a feeling about it. So I go back and double check the date. Somebody went over to ratemyprofessors.com and put this comment in on the day the professor had his meltdown. The day he told his students there was no God, took off all his clothes except for his socks, ran screaming up and down the hall. I'm going to give you this comment now in its entirety. Are you ready?
Yes.
Here goes. No complaints.